How's your daughter?
She's good.
Pregnant, right?
She's pregnant.
How many months?
She'll be 5 months in a week.
It's your first grandchild?
Yes.
Excited?
I'm getting there. I convinced her to register in school, so I'm excited about that. Just thinking for the future.
Yeah. How old is she? 23, you said?
21st.
Okay. Is it a boy or a girl?
Boy.
Mm. Mm. Come on, what's up? Yeah. How are you, man?
What's yourself?
Good, thank you. Hey, Joey, what happened to your makeup? Well, it looks good either way. Colin, where's your makeup? Danielle, what's up? Anything new?
Same old,
Just what?
same old.
Yeah. So, anything you guys want to talk about, or should we just like head home? Joey, what do you think? Should we just go home? Think so? Is there nothing exciting that you'd want to talk about? Hello, how are you? What's going on? I'm sorry, Joey, you were interrupted rudely. You were saying? Who? Deviance. Colin, could you move yourself a little bit? Danielle, can you go this way and then Colin this way? Because, oh, thank you. Deviance?
Or like sexual deviance. Like how people react.
Like sexual deviance?
Yeah, like how cultures create like strict rules and then out of that.
Can you give me a very like explicit? I'm just kidding. Can you give me an example?
Like Catholic.
What about them? Like Pope Leo?
Catholics. Like how their culture is very like restrictive and strict and out of that. How people react when they're told not to do things.
That was my tooth. How many in favor of talking about sexual deviance today? I'm sorry, Tammy. But kids these days, they're also deviant. Yeah, really. I mean, Tyrell, what's going on? Yeah? Why do you sit way in the back where you could sit like up close and personal?
I really I love you like one.
Are you afraid of people?
Yes, I love one.
You think that these people may like, what, harass you? I asked you, why don't you like come sit amongst people? Well, you're way over there. It's like an island, like way over there. Ah, you're such a deviant. Now, so, Joey, you ready?
I didn't raise my hand when you asked the question.
The what?
I didn't answer yes to the question that's on.
Well, you raised the question, and now you don't want to talk about. Adrian, what is it?
What about discipline?
How about deviant? Okay.
Or just
No. Colin, how about you? Anything? Danielle?
I guess how movements in society get started.
Okay, sexual deviance, good. Okay. Yeah. Kim, anything? Excellent. You do realize that we have an underage student who is not legal in any way, shape, or form. Do you have any earplugs? So, Joey, there are a couple of things about your... Caden, there are... There are a couple of issues about your very, very, very interesting question. Emily, can we talk about that? Number one, sex. Second, deviance. And then sexual deviance. Why you keep... I haven't even said anything funny.
We haven't said anything yet.
And yet you smile. Okay. Before we can talk about sexual deviance, let's just talk about deviance for a moment. Is that okay, Joey? You sure? I want you to take your imaginations all the way back to, say, about maybe 3,000 years ago. All spelled out in a book we call the Old Testament. Consisting of, I think if I'm not mistaken, 39 books that took about 1,000 years to be collected, put together, and then Old Testament. The oldest book in the Old Testament happens to be, I think, the book of Job. The first 5 books of the Old Testament were assumed to have been written by Moses, but come to find that Moses may not have even existed. They may have just borrowed that particular character from a Syrian Messiah prophet called Moses. And his story, of course, was stolen by, hello, King, by a guy in Mesopotamia somewhere. But all that aside, 3,000 years ago, people they didn't think the way we do. You know, they would certainly not talk about like sex and deviance in the classroom, where you're supposed to, it's higher education. I mean, life gives you low education, school gives you so fucked up. Now, there's a place called the Garden of Eden, a place where pain does not exist, death does not exist, the flesh supposedly does not exist. There are no toxins, no contamination, no deviance. And people don't need to have sex. I mean, that takes a lot of fun away from Eden, but people just didn't have any needs. They were self-sufficient. I mean, you're hungry, you just go out, look at the angels, and you're nourished. You feel homesick, you go out, and there is God. You have any questions, I don't know where you go, but there are the answers right there. Eden, the ultimate place of comfort. It's like Hawaii. You don't think, you don't reflect, you just live in the light. It's beautiful. And then something very strange happens. And these are like God-fearing Adam and Eve. You know, Adam and Eve. I mean, it's like you listening to your parents telling you, Joey, today you can't watch this movie. And you say, yes, Mom. And your dad says, Joey, can't smoke today. Yes, Dad. Joey, can't go with this fellow out. Yes, Dad. You love your parents. You know they want the best for you, so you don't disobey them. But I think, it's like, do you have children, Joey? Thank God for that. But, it's like you having bought 50 buckets of those tiny little ice creams, you put them in the freezer. And as you're leaving the house, you tell your kids, I'm going to go out for about half hour. I'll be right back. The house is yours. You're like, what was that movie? Titanic? I'm the king of the world or something. You're the king of this house. Just don't go into the kitchen. But if you go, don't go near the fridge. But if you do, don't open the freezer. But if you do, don't look to see what's in it. But if you do, don't touch those buckets. But if you do, don't unlid them. But if you do, don't touch them. But if you do, don't scoop anything out. But if you do, don't put any in your mouth. But if you do, don't swallow. I'm talking about ice cream, by the way. I mean, it's like God in the Garden of Eden. Go anywhere, do anything. But there is one tree out there, just don't go near it. If you do, don't look at it. If you do, don't touch it. If you do, don't pick it. If you pick, well, don't bite it. If you bite, don't chew it. If you chew, don't swallow it. And what happens, Joey? Yes! And that should tell you something about human nature. We don't like to be ordered. We don't like to be told. We like to cross lines. We like to bend lines. We like to break lines. That's who and what we are. We were born to be disobedient, deviant, whether ethically, morally, politically, socially, or sexually. For those of you who came in late, we're talking about sexual deviance. Emphasis on the word sexual. So that's the first thing you need to understand. Now, the way things used to work way back then is that Not really, but different cultures treat sex very differently. So the Greeks just love the naked human body. There is something profoundly magnificent about it, symmetrical, harmonious, divine. They even had orgies in honor of the god Dionysus. Wasn't categorized as something deviant, but something you would engage in. There is a sect that comes out of Christianity. It's in a book called The Panarium. These like weird Christians would walk into a room. They had a very, very special handshake. Then they would like drink some wine, the blood of Christ. And they would all be married, by the way. If you were single, you were not admitted. And then after some conversation, you and a few women would go somewhere and talk about the Bible nakedly. I'm bored now. Then you have the temple prostitution in the ancient world. That these temples only house the women, very young and attractive women. And they would be trained in understanding the human body, the human psychology, but not just any human. They would try to understand what happens to men, why they are so deficient. Hello? I mean, what's wrong with men? And so the task of these women, these young women, were to use sex as a tool to give an experience to another human being that would show them that they are more than just meat, that there is something divine about them. It's kind of like you have this relationship, there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually great. The rent is good, the food is good, the conversation is good. But the only thing that's missing is passion. It used to be there, but you know what happens to time? Time comes in and slowly just steals things away. And it's comfortable. And then you forget. Once in a while you roll in bed late at night and you say, what happened to my life? Can I tell you a story? It has nothing to do with sex or deviance. We had an instructor here on campus. She was part-time in the social sciences. I won't tell you which department. It wasn't philosophy or humanities or history. Maybe political science? But I won't tell you which one. She started as a part-time instructor. It's really, really tough to get a full-time position in the social sciences. Ask Kendra, she'll tell you. A position that's open, all of a sudden you have 50,000 applicants. One is chosen. I got this job, right? What?
Really? Got the job?
Well, I was going to tell you how. I am here, so I got the job, but let me tell you how I got it. So one day, you've seen that Harry Potter movie, these birds coming around dropping down mails. I was like walking by the river and this bird comes by, gives me an envelope, I open it, Lainey has opened the position, I apply. How many people apply for this position? from what they told me, about 80 people. I applied. So I walk into the room and I'm naked. I say, where are your clothes? This is the way I was born. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. They hired me on the spot. So this particular person was a part-time instructor. And you have to beg for classes, for teaching assignments. So, she was good friends with the full-time instructor, and I don't know if they did anything behind closed doors, but if they did, good for them. Sometimes deviance pays off. And then eventually a full-time position came about. She got the job. And she got tenured. But maybe she realized she wasn't very good in the classroom. Maybe she just sucked or stunk, or maybe she got bills to pay. Then she said, you know what? I don't want to be in the classroom. I want to be on the 7th floor. She became a dean. So the salary jumped from 50,000 to 150,000. Whoa. And then, like sharks, they smell blood, they taste blood, they want more. So, power looks good and feels good. Money also looks good. But you know what? You know what happens when you get more money in your pocket from renting a room, living with 20,000 people, now you have your own studio. Then you get more money, now you get a 1-bedroom, then you get more money, then you buy a house, like East Oakland, then you get more money, then you buy a house in West Oakland, then you get more money, then you get a house in like Montclair, She says, oh, a dean is good. Power, money. Then she became the vice president. From 150 now, she jumps to 225. So if I can be the VP, why not just be a P? So now she's the P. And it won't stop there. In a few years, she'll probably be like a vice chancellor in some forsaken place. And then she'll be a chancellor. And then she'll get old and die and be forgotten. Now, the point I'm trying to make is, at a certain point, you realize that you have played the games of life so much that in the course of playing this stupid game, you lose your soul, your passion. You went into teaching for one purpose. You read the Bible initially for one reason. Not to become a clergy, not to become a priest. You really had some needs. You had some serious questions. You were earnest, honest. But now everything is political. It's all about power. So these women came to realize that men, in the course of just living their daily lives, providing for their wife, for their family, they lose something. And it's time for them to be reminded of the kingdom of God within you. Of course, Sumerians would not put in that particular language, but that's how it was. Do you have any other questions before I continue? Yes, Tyrell. Allahu Akbar. Vandalism is closely tied to sexual deviance. Now, you're not playing with your phone, are you? We joke. How is a family run? No. There are do's and don'ts in every family, right? How is a society run? Do's and don'ts in every society. To keep things running relatively smoothly, you need do's and don'ts. If you're my wife, when I come home, I just need food. That's your dues. Okay? If I come home and you're in a bad mood, well, you just need to be left alone. I need to know that. That's my dues. If I cross lines, well, what's going to happen? Harmony is going to go away. Balance is going to go away. You're going to be upset. I'm going to be upset. You're going to sleep on the sofa. I mean, I am. Right? Now, so the thing you need to understand is whenever you disobey something, it's simply because the space, the physical space in which you occupy, has certain do's and don'ts. And once you cross those lines, it's considered to be wrong. That wrongness equals deviance. Consider the 1980s, when the gay community was slowly coming out. Okay? I mean, they were very, very open. Now, of course, there's AIDS and all that, that kind of honed them down a little bit. I reminded them that, you know, it's fine to be gay, but there are certain engagements that you should be very cautious about. Okay? And initially there was this uproar, but slowly communities or society came to adjust itself. Okay? Right now what's happening is the trans, okay, the bi, the pan, the plate, the bull, all these like different words and numbers that come after it. You know, first there was just LG, now it's LGBT, now it's LGBT plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 7, right? And it takes time. But until that time comes, it's going to be categorized as deviant. So what is sexual deviant? For the longest time in this particular culture is, first, you can't have sex before marriage. It's just not permitted. Okay? All of that changed, of course, with contraceptives. Now your relationship with sex changed. Now your relationship with other people changed. Now you took sex to be a bit more casual. Pregnancy now was looked at very differently. Abortion was now looked at very differently. What it means to be a person, what it means to be a human being, all of those things began to change. What was once considered to be deviant, no longer. It's just a way of life. Now, imagine that you and I are married. Can you imagine that? I mean, when I imagine it, it looks like a nightmare, but let's just imagine it. You and I are married. Now, this is the 21st century. The marriage vows go back to about maybe 300-400 years after the death of Jesus Christ. Only death do us part, right? Now, at this day and age, nobody talks about like, you have died emotionally to your companion. Nobody really talks about intellectually, the two of you no longer really have anything to talk about. That's intellectual death, but no. For the longest time in our human history, in the Christian sense, it was only death, physical death. Okay. Add to it the fact that sex was not viewed as something you do to gain pleasure from. You don't have sex to have pleasure. Are you kidding? Your body is a den of sins, temptation. You have sex for one reason. What's the reason? Yes! You have children. I mean, they're useless, but nevertheless, that's what you do. You have kids. So just in case there were brothels that were like way somewhere in the city that you couldn't get to very easily. It wouldn't be like East Oakland prostitutes walking around, you know. How much do you can rent me for like $10. It wasn't like that. Is that your phone? No. I didn't think so. Is the TV? Long story short, you and I are married. We are married old school way. Death do us parts. We won't even talk about, you know, you and I fell in love and it's all romance, it's all that crap. So, We don't believe in orgies. We don't believe in affairs or cheating. We don't believe in any of that stuff. Okay? Your parents are Catholics. My parents are Mormons. Okay. And I come home. And as I'm walking to the kitchen to get myself some food that you made, Cheerios and milk, I hear something. So what is that? Ooh. Ah. Ooh. Oh. So, is that like Ariana Grande singing? So, like a nice dog, I follow the scent or the noise, and it's coming from the bedroom. I open the door, there you are! But you're not alone. You're with my best friend, Colin. Not Colin, Colin. If you and I were in a different culture with different sets of philosophies of life pertaining to sex, it would be fine. But that's not the case. We have crossed certain lines. Consider another scenario. You've been drinking every night. You go to a bar, you stay there till like 1 a.m, you drink and it's beautiful. All of a sudden, there is this law that's passed by someone that anyone who drinks after 12 a.m. will be arrested. Now, you had no idea this law even took place, but it's there. All of a sudden, something that was so normal and it was okay by the public, for the longest time, all of a sudden is demonized. Sometimes laws come from the outside, sometimes laws come from the inside. The laws that come from the outside is people like me. You gotta do MLA, you gotta do font 12, single space or maybe no space, and just in case you miss any of that, those things, points will be taken away. Sometimes you hold yourself to a certain standard. It's what Tammy would call virtue. There's a certain maturity about you, and every time you cross that or don't live up to it, then you categorize yourself as some sort of a deviant. That's all I gotta say. I mean, I would say more, but I don't want to talk about sex anymore. It's uninteresting. Okay. Yes? Nothing? I don't want to talk about vandalism. I mean, look, you're a kid hanging out with other kids. And maybe you have money, maybe you don't have money, so you go to a laundromat with crowbars and you just pry them open and you steal some quarters and you go to Denny's and you have a cup of coffee. That's what you do. Sometimes you're poor because the politicians suck. They don't really know how to take care of their citizens, and so you're in a desperate situation. So you vandalize a shop, you steal some things, you sell them. Thomas Edison, for example, his mother was dying, his father wasn't around, he was on a business somewhere, and so the doctor comes and says, if I don't take out this tumor, she'll die by the morning. And she says, well, open her up, take out the tumor. I can't because there isn't enough light. So he goes to a shop, breaks the window, steals like 50 mirrors, brings them home, lights up a few candles, and all of a sudden 5 candles turn to be like 50 candles. Now it's fully bright and the operation takes place. The father comes home in the morning. The mother is fine. The father comes home in the morning, and someone tells him that your son, broke into the shop and stole mirrors. And so, not knowing the entire context of the story, the father slaps him, belts him, kicks him. Beautiful. And of course, Edison cries. And so the doctor goes to the father and says, if it wasn't for what Edison did, that if Thomas did, your wife would be dead. Then he goes and kisses him and takes him to Ben's and Jerry's, or Jerry's and Ben's, and buys him like ice cream and Coke. Sometimes you just do it because you're just angry. I mean, look at the Occupy movement some years ago. I can't get myself to the White House. I don't have the means to talk to Obama or Trump or Biden. The only access I have is this shop that's next to me. Out of anger, desperation, I just broke a mirror. Is it really vandalism? No. It's my only way towards justice. The only problem is, I'm destroying a shop that belongs to two people who are just surviving. It's very much like me. Add to the fact that life puts so much pressure on us on a daily basis. I mean, this morning I went to the 7th floor, so angry, and I just peed on the rug where all the, important people walk around. I started from that side, went all the way. Did I vandalize something? No. I'm just angry. I'm angry because this place has worn me out. I'm old and cranky now. I'm angry because life has given me wrinkles, took away all of my hair. My beard is now gray. I have no patience left. I don't make enough money. My kids suck. My wife, she's all right. Come to class, she's playing with her TV. She's like yawning or sneezing or whatever, Tyrell is all about Ariana Grande, and it's just, you look around and say, what the fuck? I want to be like Al Pacino, where society creates envy inside me and I can't do much about it. I become jealous. I want to become, I want to be somebody, but I can't be somebody because I just don't know what that somebody looks like. And then all these scriptures, the kingdom of God inside you. You can be the Buddha, light of Muhammad, the promised land. But fuck, I've been looking for the promised land for the past 62 years. I haven't found it yet. That doesn't give me much joy, comfort. I mean, look at poor Amon there. Home Depot. How many times can you look at 2x4s and be happy and get shitty customers? Thank you, come back again. Look at Kim. Look at you. For the past 3, 4, 5, 10 weeks, you come to class with makeup. Now, you say, fuck it. That's despair right there. You just don't care anymore. That, after a while, when you get to be our age, I'll piss you off. What happened to me? I want to care about something, I just don't know what to care for anymore. And so some people, vandalize by cutting themselves. Some people vandalize by having an affair. Some people vandalize by dropping out of school. Some people vandalize by having a boyfriend at the age of 16. No one in this classroom, of course. I know, yeah. I know. Or you just turn out to be like Colin. Tell me yes. I mean no offense to any of you. I respect all of you because I know you're just great people, future leaders of this country. Yes. It's such a gift to be in the presence of all these leaders. You know, don't you think, Tammy? Yeah, I mean, this country will be in such good hands. I mean, they'll purge this place, purify it, baptize it. Yes. Good morning, Abby. How are you doing? We were just talking about sexual deviance. Yes. But that chapter is now finished. We're moving on to just sex now. Yes, Tammy.
What is your take on help versus hindrance?
Can I tell you a story?
Sure.
To be honest, I don't really know. I mean, look, Tyrell came to my office just before this class. Isn't that true, Tyrell? The answer is no, but since I like stories, let's just say. So he comes to my office and says, I haven't done any work for your class. And I don't like this class. And I don't like you. I'm all about Ariana Grande. I want to focus on the essay, but all of a sudden, Ariana Grande's image comes to mind, and it hinders me from doing work for this class. But I really need to pass this class because I have a scholarship. Do you give Tyrell a C? Because scholarships are very, very tough to come by. I mean, that's like free education for the next 4 or 5 years of your life. And just in case you make it, and you make it big, you'll be sitting having food with Al Pacino, And you sit back and you say, okay, well, what should I do? If I give them a C, they'll remain stupid. Maybe they can't do work because they have 4 jobs. Maybe they have a mother who's got cancer. Maybe their parents are just going through a divorce and their life is just upside down. Maybe they just broke up with their boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, Or maybe they're just lazy. Sometimes you help people, you give them $10 to buy them, buy themselves a number 2 at In-N-Out. And say, well, that was easy enough. You shed some tears, you have this facial expression, it inspires empathy and compassion, pity, sadness, even the feeling of guilt that, yes, you have money, but I don't have money. Here's the $10, And then say, well, that was easy enough. And they go to In-N-Out and they say, well, I want a number 2, which comes to about, $10.95. And then while they're ordering their food, the cashier says, by the way, just in case you're looking for a job, you're hiring right now. The manager is right there, they'll hire you on the spot. And the guy asks, how much? $20 an hour. And the guy says, $20 an hour? I make $150 an hour by just standing by the light. And you know that the weather is not going to be always sunny, 80 degrees, like Hawaii, that sometimes it's going to be freezing, sometimes it's going to be raining. And so the guy says no to the job. He says, I'd rather just, ask people, play them. I think initially all of us have a tendency of helping people. There are even moments where, especially if you happen to be religious, where you're consumed by the emotions of compassion and empathy, that even though you don't want to help someone because you know that they're overstepping their boundaries, you continue to help them until you help with a good amount of resentment, And then, you die, there's no one to help them anymore, they want to change their life, but they're addicted to just getting fed by other people, without doing much work on their own. And you realize that over the course of time, they become addicted to your help. And they have lost their will, they have lost their creativity, they have lost their excitement to go out there and make a life for themselves. There's a story by a man, you may have heard of his name is Sa'di. He was a 12th century poet in Iran. And I may have told the story in class, so if I have, my apologies for the repeat. It's about this woman who gets a call. This is like the 12th century. She gets a text from like the police department that, listen, your son is in jail. If you want to come pick him up, you can. And the mother asks, well, why is he in jail? He got caught stealing. And so the mother, walks or drives her Tesla around the 12th century to the jailhouse, looks at her son and slaps him. And the son looks at his mother and says, your slap has come about 20 years too late. When I was 5, you saw me stealing this cookie from this shop and you said nothing. You saw me at the age of 7 stealing another cookie from another shop. You said nothing. Had you slapped me the first time, I would not have ended up here. So your help and your compassion, your kindness brought me to this place. And all of a sudden you realize sometimes the kindest act is slapping maybe someone or reprimanding someone. I'll tell you another story that comes from one of the sacred texts of the Hindu tradition called the Upanishad. And Upanishad means sitting at the feet of your teacher. And that in itself is very, very symbolic. That at what point do you humble yourself? I'm sorry, did I interrupt you? Where was I?
You were talking about sitting at the feet of your teacher.
Sexual deviance?
No.
Yes. And so, all of us are born with a great amount of arrogance and pride, right? And so there comes a point where you encounter someone where you realize they have something, and you don't know what they have, but they have something. And you're mystified by it. Maybe it's charisma, maybe it's magnetism, maybe it's the way their eloquence, the way they articulate things. Who the hell knows? Yeah. The thing that Malcolm X had, the thing that Mahatma Gandhi had, the thing that Socrates or Plato had. And so all of a sudden, this human being who's just filled with arrogance and knowledge and education and a PhD, all of a sudden says, you know what? I am lower than dust. And you bow to this particular person. If for those of you who don't know the story of Nicodemus and Jesus, Nicodemus is a rabbi. He's like 95 years old. Jesus is like this 31-year-old punk, right? And yet Nicodemus, being a rabbi, knowing the Old Testament inside and out, goes to Jesus Christ and begins to ask him questions as if he doesn't know anything from anything. How could a 90-year-old man bow to a 30-year-old guy? That's Upanishad. Bowing, humbling yourself before someone's wisdom or charisma or presence. Okay. So what happens in this particular story is that this tiny little lion cub is walking around and following in the footsteps as his mom and dad, the Lion King, Simba and Mimba. And all of a sudden slips and goes through this tunnel and bangs his head into a rock. And loses consciousness, wakes up, and has no idea who he is, what he is, and where he is. And looks around and finds himself amongst sheep. And what do sheep do? Ba, 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 right? And lion, having forgotten, who and what he is, begins to, and what is it that all of us in this class desire? We want validation. We want a cult to belong to. We want meaning. We want purpose. You can't do it on your own. So you depend on society. If not society, a community. So in order to be liked, like Malcolm X, who dyes his hair orange, right? This lion cub begins to go, ba, ba. It's very, very strange. You know, you're black and yet you sound like white. You're brown, you sound like black. It doesn't make any sense, okay? Now, this lion cub eventually turns to be like a lion with a huge, beautiful mane or beard, you know, and a turban, okay? And this lion is walking around and all of a sudden slips, slides through this tunnel, bangs his head to a rock, loses consciousness, wakes up, goes, bah, bah. But the problem is that he's surrounded by all these lions and lionesses, and they're like sitting back saying, the fuck is wrong with this lion?
Right.
You know, lions don't go bah, they roar, you know. Now, the alpha male of the lions knows exactly what has happened. No therapy, no sitting and having a conversation, without any warning. Jumps on the lion, grabs the lion by the neck, forcefully pulls him towards the water, pushes the lion's head into the water. Well, not into, but so he can see his own reflection. Okay? And waits and waits and waits until the lion, who had forgotten that he was a lion and acts like a sheep, sees his reflection to realize that he is in fact a lion, not a sheep. After many, many hours, if not days or weeks or months or years, all of a sudden, the kingdom of God is at hand. This lion, who assumed to be a sheep, roars. Sometimes you realize the best act of kindness is by being very forceful, so someone can remember. Therapy. So tell me about your past. You know, the easiest way, instead of doing like 50 years of therapy, who the fuck ever told you you're important? Just do that for a week, issues will be gone. I've been teaching in the classroom for 33 years. That's therapy right there. Why do you ask? No, that's not true. That is not true, Adlami. Oh, no, I'm all for, I think, look, whatever amount of clarity that anyone or anything can give you, more power to you. It's no good. But whatever clarity you gain is great. No, the truth is, I think that's really the new religion. Once you get rid of religion and God from society, and once you make people divided, you know, once you remove the front yards and you only have backyards, and once everybody lives a very privatized life, and once you isolate people and you inject them with a great amount of advertisements by corporations and companies, I mean, you have to understand that video game companies spend billions of dollars each year to figure out how to addict kids to games. You know, I mean, lots of homeless people. I mean, look at Laney College. All that money could go into helping people in a nice way. Healthcare, you know, cancer research, dementia, all these things. But no, that's not what the capitalism is about. Capitalism is about, you know, having this invisible rope around people's neck and suffocating slowly. So at a certain point, they realize that life means nothing, then you need therapy, okay? So in a culture such as this, you don't need religion. What you need is therapy. You don't need priests. What you need is therapists or psychologists because now you have people with lots of different issues. You know, I would experience grief when my father would die, when my mother would die. Now people experience grief when they're like 5 years old. You know, at least when I experienced grief at the age of 40, I've lived a relatively healthy life for 35, 36 years. Kids not allowed to do that anymore. So therapy is good, okay? But the thing about therapy in this particular culture is this. America is a how-to culture. It's a quick fix culture, you know? Which means that when you go into therapy, your assumption is, I want to be healed by next week or next month or next year. And what at least, you know, history tells us, literature tells us, is most of the most important human dilemmas usually take a lifetime to understand, to process, and to maybe find a relatively healthy solution to. You know, add to the fact that America is a very fast-paced culture. From one class, you run to another class. From another class, you run to your job. From your job, you run home, you eat your food quickly, then you do some work, then you pass out in your bed. That's how life is lived. So in the course of time, what you realize, your attention span to being focused on a problem is not going to be very long. And if you have an issue, you need to focus on it. You need to pay attention to it, study it, take notes on it, learn from it. But nobody has the capacity to do that anymore. I think it's great that you can gain some clarity and insight about who and what you are, about your history. Okay? But, you know, if you don't know what to do with the history, then that history can become an additional cross that you have to carry, and it may be a bit too much. But therapy is great. I'm not being, but, you know, Lark, go ahead. You empty? That's Adami.
You mentioned there was one with arrogance and pride, right?
Yeah.
Are men born with more pride, or why are men more prideful?
It's a great question. I really don't know. I mean, I have some guesses. Some of it has to do with the biological aspect of life. Some of it has to do with, I think, the social aspect. If you go back in time, you know, being in society is really, really, really awful. It's really awful. I ran into my former dean this morning on the elevator, and I said, you know, some of the people higher ups, they're going to retire. You know, are you going to like become the president or the VP, at least apply for the position? He said, no, I mean, maybe you should. And when you get to the administrative positions, the conversation is about money. The conversation is about the color of the doors in the bathrooms, the number of students in classrooms, which classes need to be cut, which departments should get more budgets. It's just the tables and chairs of life, and there's nothing wrong with it. But something happens to you. You know, first of all, you always have to be in meetings. Your language is seasoned differently, you know. And so, how do you survive in life? You survive not through honesty. You survive by lying. You survive by killing. You survive by cheating. That's how you survive. I mean, look at the essays you have to write for this class. I mean, it's cheating. You don't really understand what you're talking about. Your life is far too busy. You haven't read enough. You haven't reflected enough. You haven't felt enough. You haven't studied, observed, paid attention enough. And yet, you have no problem stringing words together. That's who and what we are. We don't know much about love, yet we fall in love. We don't know much about marriage, yes, we engage. We don't know much about anything, but to survive, you wing it. Okay? And that has been men's preoccupation for a long time. There is this beautiful story that comes from the albatross community. It's in East Africa. It's beautiful. It's about the different spaces that men and women occupy, you know. And I don't know why there is such an injustice or imbalance, or why such a way was created either by nature or God. I have no idea. But I mean, such stories are just peppered in all these sacred texts, whether it's Islam or Judaism or Christianity. But the albatross story is really, really fascinating. That are you with me? That's okay. You have children? It's so much easier for men to just walk out. I mean, look at, not so much these days, but maybe 50, 60 years ago, all the way back to the Stone Age era, you know. You wake up early as a woman, you're pregnant maybe, maybe not, you just have children if you're out there. You clean the house, you do laundry, you cook, you take care of your neighbors, you take care of your grandchildren, take care of, who does that? You know, it's like this multi-layered factory that does all sorts of things in such a beautiful way. You know, men can't do that. Men are just not wired for that. Now, is it true that some men can do that? Yeah. Is it true that some women are just unable to? Yeah. But for the most part, for whatever the reasons are, maybe if you're socially conditioned, I don't really know. But going back to the story, when a man comes home, the woman stands outside with a bucket of water. She has a sponge in this bucket. She washes his feet. Then they go up. Then she serves him food. He eats first. And when he is done, then she can eat. He sits on a chair. She sits on the ground. And when he stands up, he places his hand on top of the woman's head and helps himself to stand. Now, of course, to modern sensibilities, it sounds chauvinistic, mean-spirited, ugly. Why would you wash somebody's feet? You go to the bathroom with it, you go into society with it, and what is society? It's a shitty place. You have to be in it to survive. But it takes so much of your soul, your creativity away. You think Kendra, Abi are here because what? They have a good time? No. Because there are certain parts of their life that exhausts them. They just simply turn into meat. They come to class hoping that today's class, unlike Monday's class, will be a bit more exciting, inspiring. So I can remember that I'm a lion, not a sheep. You know. So the woman knows that when the man comes home, he's just filled with poison. And why would you want to invite poison into your home, where your children are? You know, where God lives. You don't want to do that. So you make sure his feet are washed. And what happens when you wash your feet? Well, you see something, right? How do you touch it? Well, your feet help you get you from point A to point B. They are the culprit. Then how do you touch it with your hands? Everything about you as a man is corrupt. And who is this woman? She's like your John the Baptist. She cleanses you, purifies you, makes you worthy of going home. And why is it that the man eats first? But just in case the food is bad. You know? And we're not talking about like Safeway days or Costco days where there is expiration date to every goddamn thing out there. You have no idea if something has gone bad or not. It's much better for a man to eat, get sick, and possibly die than the woman. The woman is the glue. Why is it that the man sits on a chair and not the ground? Because the ground, the earth, and the woman have very many things in common. They both take a lot of shit and yet survive. You know. I don't know if you've seen mothers and their kids. You know, I can see it myself. The way I approach my kids when they do something wrong, very different than my wife. When my son does something wrong, spare the rod, spoil the child. My wife, patiently, so honey, what's going on? What are you doing? Let's go for a walk. What lunch do you want? What dinner do you want? Oh. I can't do that. And then that man puts his hand on top of the woman. Why? There is this intimacy, Adlimi, that you have with the earth. I don't have that. By being around you, I feel the presence of something mysterious. I'm envious of you. And I hope that by touching you, what you have inside, I will get just a tiny bit. But all of that changed, you know, with the feminist movement and women trying to compete in the same vein that men do, you know. So, anyways, good luck to you. Yes, Joey. Emily. Joey. Emily. Call in. Danielle.
You know, ideas for society, how that looks. So I guess it's more about how ideas transfer back to people and start change.
Have you seen Trump?
Right, hot too.
You know, almost all the Republicans are beginning to like talk like him. It's really quite amazing. So, you know, you have an idea, that idea falls in the hand of someone very, very powerful. That person with a lot of power begins to blitz people. They call it advertisement. And before you know it, everybody buys it. Abi, anything? Oh, Kendra. I'm on. It's okay. You got time. Like we have time for a quickie. I'm not talking sexually. Yeah. I mean, it's all Joey's fault, really. Yeah.
I was going to ask how you feel about people sort of more
Like indifferent? I mean, when you live in isolation for such a long time, look, do you know who Bobby Fischer is or was? He died some years ago. Bobby Fischer was this great American chess player who beat this beautiful Russian chess player many, many years ago. But he was suffering from paranoia, you know. He believed that the CIA was after him, and there are documents that show that to some extent. Eventually, he became a recluse. He lived a very, very solitary, very, very private life. No one really knew where he was, what he was doing. Before he died, or maybe just on his deathbed, a few moments before his death, he said something really remarkable. When you're sick and you can't move your body, you can't move your hands or feet, someone comes and just, rubs your forehead a little bit, or just holds your hand. That's some of the things that we used to do when, I worked at the hospice program for about 6, 7 years. There comes a point where conversation just is no good, and all that the person really needs, or maybe all that you need as a volunteer, just to hold the person's hand before he or she passes. He says there is nothing more magical than the human touch. Now that's a remarkable thing to say by someone who always ran away from being around people. Never got married. I don't even know if he had sex, whether deviantly or not, But my nephew both of them, my niece and nephew, are in Cleveland right now doing dental school. Every time I call him, he has his glasses on and he's studying. It's a very, very, tough place to be as a 24, 5-year-old, to be studying about 20 hours a day, Now, he is very lucky in the sense that he's very community oriented. From the moment he was born, he lived amongst people. And every single day he calls his grandparents and he talks to his mom, okay? Now, imagine for a moment that this is a kid who was not very close to his parents, was glued to video games, and at a certain point he said, I want to go to dental school. Well, he has been used to being in isolation, okay? And there comes a point in his life where he says, I really want a companion. But the problem is this: he has to go against 20, 25, 30 years of living in isolation. Your physical body lives in this classroom. You are amongst other people, but you don't engage. You don't know how to engage. And you're always absent, even though you're present. And the only things you care for are your own stuff. So I think you're slowly trained into becoming apathetic. Isn't there a song about that? It's kind of goes like, I don't know how it goes, but kids listen to it, like 4-year-olds. Yeah, just in case you happen to fall in that particular category, categorize it as an addiction. And if you're addicted, you need to be rehabbed. And you can't do rehab on your own. You need a community, which means that the only kindness that the rehab center will give you is being mean, being forceful. That's the only way to get you out of your comfort zone. And that you won't like. And given the fact that you're an individual and your private space means anything to you and it's valuable, there's a good chance that you desire to be coddled and the center is not going to coddle you, so just go away. And nearly get to be my age. Lonely, pathetic, sad, useless. This new generation. Yes, Alami.
It's overtime. But can you talk about being, or expand on being here or not present?
For those of you who need to go, it's okay. You watch TV once in a while, no? There are moments you turn on the TV, you're watching a show, and it just doesn't interest you. And even though it's on, you're like playing with your phone, you're reading the news, or you're doing something else. The truth is, if something doesn't interest you, if something doesn't capture your attention, well, you're going to be there, but you're just not going to be engaged. It's something that happens in most relationships. Time passes, you're very much used to your companion, and then you, without really being aware, his or her presence or absence doesn't really make much of a difference. You're engaged with your own stuff. Being present and paying attention to anything, it doesn't matter what it is, requires a lot of energy, a lot of interest, a lot of excitement. And one of the other things is when you live in a culture such as this, where there is abundance of things, i.e. options, nothing out there is going to hold your interest for too long. Because if you had a culture in which you had to be okay with having a cell phone and that cell phone had to carry you for the next 10 years, the cell companies would just go bankrupt. But the cleverness of this culture is every 5 months, you're made to be discontent, unhappy with your cell phone. And even though there is nothing wrong with it, and it's just psychological, you go into the store and you buy a new one. Okay? So the first thing that you need to understand, if something doesn't hold your attention, you're just going to walk away. Let's say you're very bored in this class, and every time you come, you just yawn. Okay? And I don't blame you. I say, so Adlami, how you doing? You know, and it just slips. And it slips because repressed emotions, once in a while, they explode, they come out. Just had this huge argument with my dad. And then you retreat. Now, you don't really care about Thomas Hobbes or David Hume or Immanuel Kant or none of those useless people. So, oh, well, let me talk about parenthood. Let me talk about anger. Let me talk about the wisdom of parents and the uselessness of children. Now I have your attention. The truth is, if you don't get to know people, you can't be interested in them. And they're not going to be interested in you. If I know what lives inside you, then I can advertise things that will capture your attention. So when you go out on a date, don't just talk about yourself. Look for clues. Once you know what this guy is interested, then put yourself in those stories. They don't have to be true. You can just fake it. It's like, Colin, Danielle, Lark, Emily, Tammy. It's good to see all of you. Take care of yourselves. See you soon. Next week.